Hello, I'm Artifacts of Mars, and this is Disclosure. Now, the pictures from you're about to see are genuine. I have modified them a little bit for clarity. The difference between my modifications and somebody like Cornell Ithaca, New York, is that when I modify something, I try to show what's in the photo. They're trying to hide things. Make no mistake, what you're about to see is real, and the structures, the artifacts, and the plants are real. But there are very bad people in this world who don't want you to know that there are artifacts, structures, and plants on the planet Mars. What their agenda is, I don't know. They have one standard answer for everything. It's a rock. That's called science by proclamation. I didn't come up with that term, by the way. That is Stanton Friedman's term. Science by proclamation. They proclaim that everything you're seeing is rock. No, it isn't. I'm very sorry. Of course, there are many rocks in the photos, but some of the objects are not rocks. Some of them are legitimately artifacts from a past or present alien civilization on Mars. And the plants are unmistakable. You don't have stems and leaves being formed by rocks. It just doesn't happen that way. Not to mention the fact that we have vines hanging down from different objects, which would be quite impossible for a rock as well. All in all, the photos definitely show evidence of an alien civilization on Mars and current life in the form of vegetation. Vegetation I'm sure of, I'm not sure of animal life. So where do we go? Why is this important? Well, somebody told me what matters is here on Earth. Then why do we have all these satellites and telescopes looking out into the cosmos to see what's there? It's because it is the nature of human beings to be inquisitive and to want knowledge. But knowledge is the one thing that many people don't want you to have. Why? These are elitists. They believe that only they should have access to certain knowledge. Nothing infuriates me more. See, the people who are holding this knowledge have so much money that they would turn God green with envy. They live lives of opulence and splendor that most of us can only imagine. And they believe that you and I should not have access to freedom or this type of information. They believe that it's only for them, only for the Illuminati or whatever you want to call them. Nothing angers me more. That's their whole philosophy, however. You don't have the right to choose your own religion. You don't have the right to speak out against the government. You don't have the right to choose your own food. They're going to decide everything for you. That's called slavery, folks. And of course, you don't have the right to knowledge about Mars and other celestial bodies having life and artifacts and structures on them. I've heard about structures on the moon. I haven't seen any, but I haven't done a lot of research either. There's definitely structures on Mars, and plants, and artifacts. And I encourage people to copy the video, and this video and the other videos that I make, and freely distribute them. I would like you not to alter them in any way. I encourage you to distribute them, show them on your website, distribute them any way you want. I don't really care. All I care about is the public knowing the truth about Mars. And I don't know everything, obviously. If I did, I could expose more. All I can do is look at the artifacts, structures, and plants and try to show them to you. That's all I can do. Like I said, you can help. The way you can help is by distributing the Mars videos that I make to different venues and help to show the public the truth. And you can study the photos. I put them on my website, Snake and the Hunter Enterprises. And that's about it. I hope you enjoy the video. This is going to be long. It's not going to be short. I'm going to go in depth on some things. Especially one unbelievable hollow structure, which appears to be just a very primitive tent-like structure, typical of what I've seen in the Mars photos, but this one is a little bit clearer than some of them. So I hope you enjoy the video, and I hope you spread it around. Remember, you have been duped. We have been duped by the scientific community. These people, by not talking about the artifacts, structures, and plants, are showing that they are grossly unethical. You the people, we the people, have the right to this knowledge. And I will do everything in my power to see to it that people find out and learn that there are artifacts, structures, and plants in these photos. The moon is somebody else's specialty, Mars is mine. I'm Artifacts of Mars. Enjoy the show. And remember, this is disclosure. Alright, this is photo number 1 of 16. We're going to take a look at some objects first in the distance. This is kind of a house-shaped object. It could possibly be a structure. I can't tell at this distance. Unfortunately, I tend not to get too close to things like that. I wonder why. Here we have another object which appears to be hollow. And it has something in front of it. I can't make it out. These are the tough ones because they're so far. Here's another suspicious object and another. And all through here we have these ground cover plants, Terra Induco minimus, as I call it. Small ground cover. This is so blatantly obvious. I mean, I did mod this photo, but the plants are all through here. They're unmistakable. If you can't see it, then get your eyes checked. Right off to the side here is some kind of a small structure. Unable to identify it, I left it off to the side. That's really not a nice thing, but we have to live with it. We're going to go over here again. The ground cover is all through here, these small plants. It's just incredible number of plants that are in this photo. And we have this curious object, which I'm unable to identify. It doesn't look like a boulder. Looks kind of hollow, so it's probably is hollow. And we're going to move over here. Again, the green vegetation is all through here. It's blatantly obvious. And yet we're told to believe that there's no plants on Mars. Well, it's hogwash. Here's an interesting artifact or structure. It's probably far enough away, it's probably pretty large, so I would say it's a structure. What it does, I don't know. But I've noticed that in the Mars photos you have a lot of shelters. They appear to be open, but it's something like an awning that you can go underneath and get out of the sun. I've noticed that in a lot of the Mars photos, spirit and opportunity. And this is probably nothing different than that. Who knows? I don't know, other than this is an artificial object. Over to its left is this whitish object. And it's sitting way up. Probably not a rock, probably artificial. So then we have a bunch of artificial objects. But it gets even better. Up in this area, we have a number of objects. I can't make them out. So they could be rocks. The general pattern would seem to indicate we're seeing a pattern of small structures on the right of the photo. Could be rocks, but I don't think they are. In my opinion, looking at this, most of these are probably small structures. There's one that definitely is. So then we have more disclosure for you. There's structures in this photo, and it definitely is. Right here on the edge, as usual, we have this structure here. I don't know what that is, other than it's multi-layered, multi-tiered. Well, it's probably a, well, it's a structure of unknown devisement. Here's an odd object that might just be a blank patch of ground. Most of the ground seems to be covered with this pervasive ground cover that's everywhere. And that is just bizarre that they can ignore this. I have no words. But we're going to move down. The plants are just so through here. This is an interesting object. Hollow underneath. It's got this flat plate or something sitting right here in front of it. Unable to identify that. Probably not natural. In my gray box. And here we have one of the main objects of this photo, and we're going to see this object again. This artifact right on the right. That is an artifact, folks. Make no mistake. When we see the other photo, we'll see more of it. Kind of a bread box shaped artifact. I have no idea what it does, other than perhaps it's some kind of, part to building block, that kind of thing. These structural things seem to be scattered all about Mars photos, and that's unique in and of itself. And here's a kind of a spade-shaped object right there. So this whole photo is just packed with evidence that we're not being told the truth. Here's a little bit, some objects sitting right there. It's all through here. Here's an anomaly right here. Kind of rectangular holes in it. These are old relics that have been sitting on the surface. Okay, I had to wait for my machine to get caught up. That's a technical thing. That about actually does it for this photo. I mean, the plants and structured objects are all through here. It's just amazing that this evidence can be ignored. I have no words. There's no honesty or integrity in our society anymore. That'll about do it for this photo, and we'll go on to the next slide. And here we go again. This is the second photo. Here's that artifact I showed you in the first photo. Get a little bit better look at it. Kind of squares, like a bread box shaped deal. Typical Martian artifact. Very, very little chance it could be natural. I'd love to see somebody try to prove that's natural. And a hollow artifact right by it. I'm a bit flummoxed by that. It's similar in some respects to the vent hoods that I've seen and cataloged in the Spirit and Opportunity photos. Right below it, we have what appears to be a small plant. Of course, much bigger than the ground cover that you see pervasively through here, all this green. The very fact that we have reddish patches, like up here, we got very little vegetation, and as a result, it looks reddish, right? So, what that means is there isn't as much vegetation growing on it, very little. Yet these other areas are just covered with these green plants you can see everywhere. You just bother opening your eyes and looking. So, in conclusion, I got one more thing before I go to the conclusion on these two photos. Here we have this multi-tiered, layered area. Once again, I am at a loss. I don't know. And right through here, we have something that looks like tracks. Footprints, perhaps? I don't know. Again, it's strange. And we have, like, these pipes or cables or whatever they are that are so prevalent in the photos. It's just amazing that all this can just be dismissed. It's crazy. Again, more of the same, as well as small plants all through here, on top of the rocks, on top of the ground. The plants are very pervasive. Here's an interesting and hollow object, an artifact, or structures, another one, and another one. There's all sorts of these hollow objects that couldn't have formed naturally, and it's just amazing looking at them. And these are right out on the open. We're not talking about caves or something like that. That's about it. We have a couple artifacts up here and what appears to be some type of possibly an orchard or something. I'm not sure. I can't tell without a closer look whether we're seeing some type of an orchard or perhaps structures. I might be going with structure theory at this point. So this is all wrong. All this. The plants are everywhere when we're told that they can't live on Mars. You've been duped if you believe the official story. You have been duped. It's as simple as that. Alright, we're going to move on to the next slide. Thank you for watching. This is the third entry, the third photo. And this is one of the two photos that appear to show some sort of cipher-based writing. I've tried enhancing this. This may not be writing at all. This may be some sort of access port. This looks like some type of odd artifact. But it does resemble a backwards 8 and a backwards Greek letter phi. Now, the Greek letter phi is used in computing and other applications, basically to distinguish between the number 0 and the letter O, because they can be confusing. Now, a computer doesn't care. It prints the Greek letter phi. That's that little 0 with a slash through it. These two appear to be backwards. So, I don't know if this is cipher-based writing or whether these are some kind of access ports, and they're not easy to see. Maybe somebody can, grab photos from Snake and the Hunter Enterprises and do a better job on it than I can with my limited equipment. And here we have vines hanging down from this artifact. It's covered with these green vines. It's all over the place, folks. It's crazy. Alrighty. And here we go. This is probably an artifact, and it's covered with that viney vegetation again. It's just incredible that all this can just be ignored like it's not even there. And we're told not to see it. We're not actually told that these artifacts aren't there. We're told not to see them. We're told to see rocks. That's crazy. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I see rocks when I know I'm not seeing rocks in many cases. Alright, so shall we look up above? We shall. Here's yet another hollow structure. Seen plenty of these. Cannot make out what's inside it, but it looks like it's being used for some sort of storage. Is that insane or what? And that can actually be ignored. And the same plant life see down here is up here as well. And again, the difference with this hollow structure that I have the cursor on is that this one appears to have a light on inside it. I said light. There's a bright center and then a cone of light coming from it. That is strange, because that means there has to be somebody on that planet who turned the light on, right? I mean, they're generating energy. That's crazy. Alright, couple of horseshoe-shaped objects. And again, more structures. This doesn't look natural, this peak thing. So I'm assuming the rest of this is not natural either. There's more. This is an obvious part of the building. I mean, it goes up. It's that four-sided thing. There's a window in it. Obvious building. So there's another structure like I promised. And there's going to be more. Don't you worry about it. Large boulder probable here, and it appears to be virtually encased in this vegetation. That's crazy, but it can just be ignored. And yet another hollow artifact right beside that. So here we have just massive amounts of evidence that that planet is inhabited or at least was inhabited. Here are some possible buildings right in here with windows and rectangular openings. So don't give me this BS that's all rocks. I'm not going to listen to it. I'm past it. I'm not going to put up with it. Okay. Just a moment and we will continue. Okay, I've zoomed in on this area and here we have a bizarre object that I can't even understand. It's probably some sort of exhaust port type thing. What? I wouldn't know. Some kind of machinery, I would suppose. That thing's bizarre. It's got three different openings. Definitely not what you would call a rock. And let's see what other goodies we have here. This photo is just packed with stuff. Here's an interesting object right outside again. For all intents and purposes, it looks a lot like an axe handle, except it's not terribly straight. It may just be a type of a stick. So there's another object that doesn't belong. And right here, we have this kind of triangular object. And it goes over, and apparently we have another pipe here. It goes from here over to the object. Yet another pipe. Pipes aren't formed by rocks, usually. There are exceptions, but not this time. So, that's bizarre. That's artificial. Small bush there. And here's an interesting object. It's kind of almost rectangular, and it's got a post inside it. It's got a rectangular object inside it. That's all the way to the back, as if it's some sort of a sign. And that's what I believe it probably is. No chance to bring anything out on that. There you have, once again, multiple disclosure. You're seeing alien artifacts on that planet. And plants too. You can see the light green amongst the sand right in here. It's just amazing that these people can be so callous as to ignore the evidence. I mean, if you're going to reject photo evidence, why would you not reject chemical evidence? There can be more possibilities of chemical evidence than you can shake the proverbial stick at. That's probably going to be it for this slide. There's artifacts. There are plants all over the place in this photo. You can see the green for yourself. And there are the pipes, which rule out being natural. You're not going to have natural pipes like that, not of this type in nature. There are some that do exist. Those are usually vertical, though. At any rate, so there you have it for this photo. We'll move on to the next. Structures, plants, artifacts. It's amazing. Let's take a look at this photo. This is the next one. We have kind of like these. One of them appears to be circular, the other one probably is too. They look like some sort of access plates leading to the ground. On this one we have a pattern of vegetation, plainly obvious. Here's another piece of vegetation hanging down here. The Terra Induco minimus is all over the place. Right here we have possible flower. We have another object here. This is just driving me out of my mind because they're ignoring all this evidence like it's not even there. I'm not ignoring it, I'm talking about it. I'm sick and tired of lies. Here's an object, and if I didn't know better, I'd say it was a mailbox. It stands up on a post. It's probably a sign, but it's far too distant to get a good look at. It stands up on a post, for crying out loud. Not a rock. Here we have another hollow object. Maybe a small structure. Can't tell. Plants galore all over the place. It's just amazing that all this can be ignored. Here's a structure, apparently, probably subterranean. And over here, we have we have yet another structure. The interesting part is that there's a rectangular window in it. See it? Right there. That's nice. I like photos that have the windows in them, because they remind me every time that I'm looking at artificial stuff that somebody, who we call Martians, created. And again, right here we have some sort of a wall or something like that. Definitely artificial. Moving along, another hollow artifact structure. It's just amazing that all this can be ignored. These are not natural scenarios. It's just crazy to call them natural. Except for the plants, of course. Those are natural. But over here on the side, we have another wall-like structure, but we also have this large structure, and we're going to see this one in the next slide. This one is amazing. It's an actual building that they caught, and they're not, of course, talking about it. And clearly not a boulder. It's up off of the ground. I believe I can even see a support right here, and possibly another one right here. It's tough to say, but it's definitely a structure. It's definitely a building. It's not natural by any stretch. And we're going to look at that in more detail next slide. Other than that, we have the usual plants covering everything. And here's an odd object that I can't identify, at least not yet. It has almost like a backward end shape to it. But here's the darling of the photo right here. And I'm going to cut away for a minute. My screen capture program requires it. I don't want to get into the details of this other than to say it's a pain in the neck. I'll be right back. Okay, as I was saying, this is a darling of the photo. This might have some sort of cipher-based writing. I've tried enhancing it. I got nowhere. It may just be pitted and all that. Pitted and worn down. But notice the mouse shape. This hole right here. This is some sort of access port. In, out. I don't know which. both, and another over here. This is clearly a very old, mysterious structure. It's triangular, as you can see, and has kind of like this arm that goes over here. It's a fascinating structure. Like I said, there may be cipher-based writing on it. I don't think so, but right up top, kind of looks like there may be something. Okay, now let's take a look at this object. This is a raised object. Looks like some sort of a track, only it goes from over here to up here and then down here. These are artificial objects, and I don't know what they're there for, to be honest. So, I'm stumped on that. What we're seeing is tough to tell from perspective. But here we have yet another hollow structures. They just seem to be all over the place. And it's this, rectangular tent-like appearance that you always get. I've seen those in Mars photos so many times that I just become jaded after a while. I just get used to them. Over here we have was apparently yet another pipe. Let's see if there's anything else before I go. But this is just outrageous. They can continue to give us this line of BS that's very sartorial. There's no life on the planet, and no artifacts, no nothing. And here we are back to these objects again. This whole thing, there's artificiality all through here. It's just amazing. There's some gouges or something. Look like they've just been dug right into the hillside. I'm going to wrap this one up, and we'll go on to the next slide. An obvious window or port or something there. We're going to go on to the next slide. We've got most of the really good stuff out of the way, but there's more to come. Don't even worry, there's yet another structure in the photos that's simply amazing, a hollow one. There's a hollow one right there, that's not one. Alright, this thing is clearly some kind of a building. It's triangular here and long. It's some kind of a building that seems to be covered with vegetation, so I think it's been there for quite some time. Is that beautiful or what? Anybody who uses their imagination and tries to call that a rock, I just feel sorry for them. They're crazy. It clearly is artificial. I mean, it's sitting up off the ground. And it's not solid. It looks almost like a superstructure or something. See if we can bring this in. See, it gets too pixelated, unfortunately. This is clearly a building of some kind. Don't give me any nonsense. And again, another building with a hollow entrance right here. It just seems to be an incredible plethora of buildings in some of these photos and nothing in others. Buildings and artifacts. This area up in here, again, we're probably not seeing much that's natural. These look like small buildings as a part of the complex. Martian architecture seems to be a little different than ours. Although I've seen they're using things like Roman style arches before, so who knows? Who knows where the Romans got it? Right, let's move over here. More hollow buildings, structures, all through here. It's just amazing all this can be ignored. I jump out of my seat and I see one of them. Here's that saucer-shaped deal again. It may not be the same as what I showed before. And again, over here, it looks like there's pathways to this one. There's a path that goes up and over. This has all the appearance of a bridge. So it may be that there's a waterway here or something that you can't see. And again, it's the same thing here. This doesn't. It's more like a footpath or something. And an empty area in here. No question it's artificial. The question is who built it and why aren't we being told? And this is why I'm here. To encourage people to demand answers. I didn't know, but I said it was a deck of an aircraft carrier. That's kind of what it looks like. This object. Well, it's not, but who knows what it is. It's some kind of a structure. Once again, it's flat on top and got a window and it slopes on down on bottom. It's a structure. Building, once again, more artificiality. I promise you massive disclosure, and that's what you're getting. And showing buildings, and showing structures. You want something else? Well, there's more to come. Here's an odd object that I've been unable to identify. Not a rock, at least not entirely. It looks metallic. I'm just not sure what I'm seeing there. But it's not natural. It's kind of got these manufactured bands that are on it. That one's one of the ones that has me stumped. Here's an interesting object. It's just sticking up. There's a plant above it. I don't know what we're looking at. It looks like the place was put together by monkeys or something. And looking at the hand, there's a little bush here. Nice bush. Lush, green. Well, let's see if we have anything else. Rest of these, most of the rest of these, I don't know if I can dismiss them because it appears that this one may have some sort of a brick pattern on one side. I'm going to put this on hold and see if I can bring that out a little bit. Hold on, please. Same photo, I tweaked it. I'm going to have to let these two objects go for the time being. But I have insufficient evidence that they're anything but boulders. So, you know what, those two go, I won't let this one go. This is sitting up on something and it's got more or less a four-sided shape. Very old, worn out object, whatever it is. And again, another hollow one. I used to call these vent hoods when I was doing Spirit and Opportunity. I haven't ruled out going back to doing those. And again, another hollow object. It just seems to be unimaginable numbers of these. And again, yet another hollow object. It's the shape of a motorboat, believe it or not. That's not what it is, but that's the shape of it. And again, yet another object, this very odd kind of cross-shaped object right here. This is very strange. And it just doesn't quit. There keeps being more and more of these objects that you can find if you just bother looking. Two artifacts here, rectangular, sloping down. That is amazing. I'm going to wrap up for this photo. Just remember, you're being lied to. These are obvious structures up here. Obvious to anybody who uses their brains and their eyes. They don't have any right not to tell the public. I'm going to go to the next slide. Now we're getting down to some of the more egregious stuff that I've seen in these photos. We have, I'm going to show that hollow structure I mentioned, but there's a lot more that I want to show first. A lot more. Take a look up here on the hillside. First thing is, this overhang here looks like some sort of structure, but I can't prove it. I'm not 100% certain what we have there. It might be just natural rock outcropping, it might not. This object here is a little bit tougher. And it kind of looks like maybe it was built by somebody to look out over the hill or something. And then we get into the third object up here. And this one is much tougher for anybody to sit there and say that it's natural. What we have here, we have like a ramp. This would be like a bridge, I think. That's what it appears to be. And two sides are identical. They look like railings, right? Not natural whatsoever. See if we can zoom in a little bit. That is a bridge, apparently. And there's another object in another photo that's very interesting. It's very much like it, except that it appears to be some sort of gazebo. I'll show that eventually. Not in this series of photos. That's not from Soul 75. Finally, up in this corner, there might be a structure right in here. Kind of a rectangular deal. I can't tell. And there's a few scattered structures up in this area. So there you have a tremendous amount of visual evidence for civilization. It only gets better though. Here we have one of the mysterious vent hoods, which I've mentioned before on the Spirit and Opportunity photos. They seem to be everywhere. They're like little scoops that apparently bring in O2 or whatever they do. I don't know. And then there's a bigger one here. They look very old too. And more possibly off to the side. And here's another possible artifact right here. This one's hollow once again. It's got something inside it. Another vent hood. Seems to be a lot of those. And I am at a loss to know why there's so many unless they go to the complex underground. That's probably the reason. So you go to the complex underground. And that's going to bring us down here. Because in this area, these are the boulders that I showed before, except I am not so certain that this one is a boulder, to be honest. I'm looking at this, I haven't been able to bring out detail. It looks like some sort of brick-like pattern. That would rule out it's being a boulder. It does not look like a rock face at all. So what I'm thinking we probably have here is a structure with some kind of a gate on it. And that idea is bolstered by the fact that we have this little structure back here, and I'm not sure what to make of that, to be honest with you. But it's like a covering, and it's open. There's a lot of neat stuff right in this area. We're going to spend some time. This is like a flat plate. It looks almost metallic, brassy or something. That's interesting enough. It's tough to see though. That one's way out to the side as usual. And we have these two objects here, which may or may not be natural rocks. I'm not going to go into the detail on those. Take a look over here. We have a pretty clear image of plant stems and leaves. Mostly the plant stems are going vertical across this area. It's unmistakable. Rocks couldn't form that. Those are plants. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's nothing to argue about. But the question is, why are we not being told the truth about this? And again, we have something here that I can't quite make out. It does appear to be covered with the same vegetation. So there you have more yet. And some artifacts. Now I'm going to put this on hold for the technical reasons I have, and then we're going to discuss these objects because these are really fascinating and very important to note what they are. Alright, these objects are the cream of the crop. I'm going to look at the least of them first. This is kind of a rectangular object. Appears to have a rectangular opening in it, right here. Not a lot to see there. We go straight across and, cross-section wise it's triangular, so definitely an artificial object. I'm not going to go into much detail on that one. I want to look at these other two, which are just outrageously amazing. This object you're seeing appears to be at least partially hollow. And it's clear that the Martians, wherever they are, appreciate the arch. This is another example of an object that includes the arch. And there's something inside it that I can't make out. Generally, I think that may be a part of a building. And that thought would be bolstered by this object. These two may actually be connected. This appears to be a corner piece to a building. There's no question that's what it is. And you see this area right in here, it goes across. And it may well connect to this other object. when put together, for all I know, this could be a clock or something. There's no evidence of that. I'm just saying that these two objects do appear to go together. And what function they serve, whether structural or decorative, I wouldn't know, but they apparently were part of a building at one time. And that's consistent with what I see in the photos, that they're just buildings and more buildings and more buildings. It's just outrageous. Let's zoom up here, take a look at this strange structure. This is a good one, folks. It's kind of like, almost looks like a tent. You know, these temporary tents you might have with a traveling circus. It's got this wavy appearance. Looks like it might be propped up by poles. Then you would have the entrance right here. Possibly the egress on the other side. And that's significant. The reason this is significant is that it implies that it is possible to live on the surface without much in the way of equipment. Because you have these open structures where people could just walk in. It's very strange that this can be ignored. But of course we have these elitists who don't want you to know that these are artifacts and structures. Looking around, now we're going to get into nitty gritty. Here's a round circular structure. Perhaps some sort of foundation. That one's interesting. It kind of sticks out. But here is the darling of the photo. In fact, it's the darling of the whole series as far as I'm concerned. This object is clearly and unequivocally hollow. This is just a thin shell is all this is. And once again, it's tent-like. And it looks very primitive. So, the implication here is, like I said, people can probably live on the surface of the planet without much in the way of protective gear. This would be there to protect you from the sun. That would be about it. That's opposite of what we've been told, of course. We've been told that people cannot live on the surface of Mars. They would die immediately if they were out on the surface. And of course, the atmosphere is supposed to be so thin that nothing else can live there as well. And I'm not buying that. There appears to be some support here that goes through here, by the way. Now, I'm going to put this on hold after I show this one plant. Here's an interesting patch of plants right in here. You can see a stem sticking up. Very interesting object. Very interesting plant. And, again, small amount of vegetation. The vegetation's all through here. It's just unbelievable that all this can be ignored. Yet another interesting artifact right here. This one may have like something translucent sticking out of it. These are all very fascinating. We're going to show that other object in more detail in the next slide. We have this sticking up here. These are noteworthy artifacts. Very thin artifacts sticking up and going across like that. Definitely manufactured. Alright, we'll move on to the next slide and show that one object in greater detail. Okay, now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. Here again is the same massive plants that I showed in the last photo. There's a stem going across. Typical. Completely ignoring all the evidence. Another plant. This whole area is vegetated. It's pretty easy and obvious to see the green. It's just low-lying ground cover. Right in here, there's some branches and so forth. They're pretty easy to see. I'm wondering if maybe there's trees here at one time. It's a definite possibility. This looks like a stump, for instance, right here. And again, here's something. No comment at this time. But here's the darling of the photo, juxtaposed in front of this field full of that ground cover. At first I thought this was completely low tech, but take a look at this. This is obviously some kind of machinery. So this might actually be an entranceway to underground area. It's one of the things that I'm thinking about. There's no question it's hollow, though. You can see it for yourself. The shadow how it continues underneath the structure. And there appears to be some sort of a support that goes up, and another support that goes over and across. Interesting. Fascinating, as a matter of fact. One thing, another look at this. This looks for all the world like a small building where you might have some machinery, and then whatever this is attaches via this umbilical. You gonna call that a rock? You're insane if you do. So that's what I'm thinking here. Perhaps this might shelter some sort of machinery. It would be really hard to tell without, somebody's cooperation. But there seems to be, these rectangular sheets inside here on the sides. So I would say probably houses some machinery or something. But it's odd that it's all open when we're told the air pressure is really low and nobody can survive on the surface. I'm thinking that's BS as well. Very sartorial. And behind here there's some kind of a little structure goes with it. I wouldn't know. And here we have this field of just incredible numbers of plants. There's hundreds of thousands of them. You can see the green all through this area. It's just beautiful. It's life. And it's on Mars. Another interesting object here. Seems to have some pretty sharp lines on it. There's probably an artifact, and there's so much vegetation that's growing over it, so I can't tell for sure. Inconclusive. I'll just point a few more things out and we'll go to the next slide. And this is the beauty, though. This object, clearly hollow, clearly artificial, is apparently there for somebody to go in and get out of the sun. It may contain some sort of machinery. Plus, this deal here with whatever this is connected by an umbilical to this object. Fascinating, fascinating stuff. I don't think we've seen the last of this type of thing either. It's amazing that they can just ignore all this and not tell the public. Do these people have no shame? Here's something odd. Kinda looks like a little cactus. I wouldn't know. And here's a post sticking right up, right out of the desert. And here's one more interesting thing. This kind of looks like an entranceway down to underneath. I don't know, it doesn't look right at all. I don't think it's natural. That about wraps it. I'm going to go to the next slide now. We've gotten through the biggest amount of stuff. There's still a little bit of stuff left to go. Thanks for watching. Alright, it's Artifactsofmars again. Like I said, there's less stuff in this funnel, but there's still some interesting things. Here we have something that closely resembles a tree stump. I can't get that good of a look at it. But it's right in front of this hollow object. It's another one of these vent hoods. Goes up and over and down. I'm thinking the two must be connected somehow, but I wouldn't know what the connection is. The Martian technology seems to be quite substantially different than what we have. The architecture seems to be somewhat similar in many respects. I think the technology is probably quite different though. And there's something behind here that I can't quite make out. There's this roundish semicircular thing. Alright. Plants everywhere. You can see the green. Interesting object here in my gray box. Got this rounded appearance. It's probably one of those vent hoods that I've been talking about all these years. And here we have what certainly just looks like a boulder. Well, there does seem to be some kind of a design on it. I'd love to get a good look at it. Remember I was talking about cipher writing earlier. Now we have just a ton of these apparently hollow objects all up through here. Maybe it's these vent hoods that I talk about. They just seem to be all over the place. They're not rocks. Some obvious plants going through here, and an obvious plant there, as well as the green vegetation, the low Pteranodactyl minimus. And here's some interesting objects right in here. I can't make them out very well, but they appear to have these hollow entrances in them. I don't know why all these objects seem to have these hollow entrances when a lot of them are too small to accommodate anybody. There's got to be a reason for it, of course. I shouldn't say entrance, but that'll do for now. Alright, I'm going to wrap this, and we'll go to the next slide. Heavy vegetation throughout this photo. See it all on the ground. It's in the same area, I would assume. A clear artifact. Got kind of a square opening here. Hollow. Some type of machinery again. Smooth body. It's not a rock. Here's an interesting feature. These two things sticking up. I wouldn't know. They look too small to be anything that you'd walk through. There's a tree or a bush growing right in between them. Quite fascinating, actually. Not natural. And neither is this object here. This one is big time not natural. I don't know what else to say. This is kind of triangular, and it's obviously manufactured, and then you have this piece on the other side. It's right beside this shiny object here. Another artifact. There's just artifacts and structures galore in this range of photos. Here's something sitting up on a post, casts a shadow. Probably some sort of scientific equipment, I would think. Now take a look over here. This is a rounded wheel or something, but it's on top of another rounded object, like a cover or something. So what we could be looking at here is some sort of an access port to underground. I'm not saying that's what it is, but it's a distinct possibility looking at it. And I'm going to collectively look at all these objects. Very suspicious. This one's sitting up on two legs. That one's very suspicious. All in my gray box. None of them looks like they're natural though. Small bush over here. So even this photo was packed with stuff. Here's possible piping system right in here. There's a pipe and apparently a structure. Well, it's very small. I almost missed it myself, so it's tough to find unless you know where to look, and this is why I'm trying to show people where to look. Finally, stuck in with all the plants and everything else, is this rectangular object too far away to determine what it is. Well, I'll do it for this photo. There's plants everywhere. It's just total ground cover. There are artifacts. So, too many artifacts even to count. Here's another one. This is disclosure, folks. I'm showing you actual buildings, and I'm showing artifacts. Things like this, I cannot possibly dismiss as rock. Things like that, too. So you're seeing artifacts, you're seeing intelligent evidence of intelligent life on Mars, and you need to pressure your representatives into giving you answers. And we'll move on. Oh, one thing. There's another one. Have a rectangular thing. It's all over the place. Cripes. So many of them I can't even count. Okay. This is the next slide. I'll be honest with you, I'm not seeing much in the way of artifacts. There's some small objects in here, maybe with pipes sticking out of them. There's an interesting object right there. Probably artificial, looks like it. There isn't a lot in this photo. Not after what I've just been through with all these other things. Well, other photos just show unbelievable objects. There's a little bit, there's one. Main thing with this photo though is, just a big, beautiful bird's eye view of all the vegetation. Green everywhere, the plants are just obvious. And sometimes I wonder if somebody is actually tilling the ground. Growing this stuff. I don't think so. I think it's all wild, but why in the dickens are we not being told the truth about it? I mean, I already know there are plants on the planet. I won't back down on that. I do not back down. I'm sorry. You don't like it? It's tough mutton. I don't care. I'm not going to back down. There are plants, structures, artifacts, and more on that planet. You're being lied to. And I'm trying to show people the truth. That's about it. I'm going to wrap it on this one, and I'm not sure when I'm going to run out, but we'll go ahead and go to the next slide if there is one. I'm probably going to move pretty quick through the last photos because they don't have a lot in them. It's mostly just this pervasive ground cover that's everywhere. Well, look at here. We have the beginnings of what may be a natural structure, may be artificial. I'm not sure. But we'll get to that in a minute. Alright. I don't see any real indication that this is anything but a natural structure, with some caveats. It does appear to be a row of objects moving along the side of it. And they're upright. They may actually be statues. There may actually be a face on one. So there is a suspicion here in me that perhaps we are looking at something artificial. There's a structure down at Hemlock Lake that looks natural, but it's actually an artificial structure. The other caveat to this is that we have what appears to be a trail, and it's quite extensive. It leads right through here. And you see it contrasted against all the green of the Martian plants. Appears to be a trail leading right up to this. Like I said, I can't necessarily sit here and say that this is artificial. No. It looks very rockish to me. But I have my suspicions about it. And like I said, it does show we are seeing some kind of trail there. I don't know what that means. Are people walking it right now? Could be. Here's an object sitting up on two legs, casting a shadow. It's just amazing that all this evidence can simply be ignored. I'd love to be able to visit NASA, but it's financially impossible. Because I would love to take them right to task and say, what about this evidence? What about that evidence? And here's my videos, what do you think of them? So on and so forth. Fascinating. Next slide. Distant structure could be a boulder, may or may not be. Plants everywhere. And low ground cover again, Pterodactyl minimus. Strange horseshoe shaped object right here. Don't know what it is. And again, possible foundation type things right in here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one. This one's not quite as conclusive as some of the others. Interesting photo. White vegetation, sandy soil. This one may need a little bit more care taken of it. So I'm going to stop it and restart it, and we'll get started on this one. This photo is a little bit tougher. It's going to take a little more work. Now in this area, there's a clear indication that we have a fence of some kind. I see 4 rungs, I don't know if that's what they're called, going vertically. 4 of them. And the problem is that this fence is obscured in great part by the vegetation. The vegetation in this photo is a little bit taller than it is in many of the photos. It's, if you look close, you can see it sticking up above things. And that's good, because it helps include objects, and that way I can be certain that I'm looking at vegetation, not some sort of anomaly. And speaking of anomalies, very odd object right here. That does not appear to be a boulder. Probably a structure of some kind. It gets all pixelated when I try to get close to it. Probably a structure of some kind. Looks very high tech too. So, you know, we go from low tech structures to high tech structures. Wherever the Martians were. Or are. Alright, up here, you're at an entranceway to something. Could be a natural cave. This area is in my gray box, to be honest. I'm not sure about it. I'm not saying building, I'm not saying natural. You look up here. This looks like a clearing or something. It appears to be almost like a platform. It's tough to make it out. It's flat on top, so it was probably constructed by somebody, I would think. And there's more of these kind of arched buildings that we've seen before up on the top of the hill. So we're probably seeing some sort of artificial complex, which has been airbrushed, of course, because they don't want the public to know the truth. Other than that, rather large vegetation, plants, possible wall right here. Nothing too spectacular except for that one anomaly that I showed. Let's take one more look at it. That thing is bizarre. Wish I can get a better look at it so I can tell what it is. All in all, very nice photo though. lots of vegetation, possible artificial structures up here, and one good artifact anomaly. So Artifacts of Mars. Not a lot in this photo other than one possible building here. Yeah, it looks like a long roof on one side and short on the other. Other than that, this photo is mostly just for plants. You see the rows of vegetation right in here. This area is pretty much bereft of vegetation. Not a lot in the way of artificiality, I don't believe. There's something that's long and rectangular. So that is definitely artificial. And there may be a pipeline here. It seems to be covered with, once again, dense vegetation. There's a lot of vines on Martian photos. Well, plants probably need a lot of support because they can't put a lot of resources into building stems. That would be my guess. And one anomaly here is more an anomaly. It's a metal object, or perhaps two metal objects, round, cylindrical, and then on top more rectangular. So there's some artificiality in this photo. Not a lot, but some. More indications of pipes. Interesting photo. Plants everywhere, artificiality. I'm loving it. And now we're back to the beginning, so I'm going to stop this. Okay, I know this video was long. I appreciate those who stuck with it to the end. I hope you distribute this video, put it on your website. Don't forget to go on to my website and drag and drop the photos. This is just outrageous. I'm going to summarize here. This is just outrageous. That objects like this exist in Martian photos, and nobody is pointing them out to the public. Nobody who has the public's ear. See, I don't have the public's ear. I'm just some guy from Western New York. I don't have any resources. I do have a computer, obviously. I don't have Photoshop or anything like that. So I couldn't hoax things if I wanted to. But it just infuriates me that they're not telling the public the truth. You are not being told the truth. I'm going to say that again. And it's time that you demanded action. There's no excuse for not telling the public about an alien civilization on Mars. I won't even listen. But to me, the ones who know about this and aren't speaking out will be in a prison cell right now. Because all I want to see is this information divulged to the public. All of it. Whatever they know. Including if there is an actual civilization there now. All of it needs to be immediately divulged. This is just unconscionable. There are artifacts, structures, and plants everywhere. Not a single one of those photos disappointed me, in one respect or another. I need your help. I need you spread this video. I need you to talk to your representatives and demand action. Demand that this information be released in total to the public. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll help spread it and tell people about the artifacts, structures, and plants on the planet Mars. And this won't be the last. I'm Artifacts of Mars. Thank you for viewing. Have a good day.